secret.
Hello everyone. I'm happy to start a brand new series, The Laws of Chumras. Many of us have heard the word Machmir, or not everyone does it, but I do. And I think it's important to lay down rules and regulations as to when to be more stringent than when Jewish law actually prescribes it. So let's first take a step back and ask ourselves a very simple question. Are Chumras good for the Jews or bad for the Jews? And there seems to be sources on both sides. Let's start with the part that says it's good for the Jews. So there's a beautiful Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 20b, in which the angels say to God, God, you said in your Torah that no one can bribe you. And yet you say to the Jewish people that the Kohanim should bless them. And you say, Yisa Hashem panav elecha, which basically means God will turn to you favorably, which is another way of saying God favors the Jews more than others. In which God answers, what am I going to do? I'm stuck. The Jews are more machmir than I told them when it comes to benching. When it comes to benching, I told them in Parshat Eikev, when you eat and you're satiated, you should bench. But these Jews, they're more machmir. Even when they eat just a kazayit, an olive size of bread, they bench. So how can I not go ahead and show them favoritism? And indeed, the Ramban, when talking about one of the biggest chumras in our Torah, namely the Nazir, the Nazirite, comes along and says that it's a wonderful thing to be a Nazir. As a matter of fact, he calls him a Nazir HaKadosh, the holy Nazir. Why? V'yikadesh atzmo min hayayin b'miyuto. He doesn't drink wine. Going on to say, V'tziva b'davar klal sheniyeh prushim min hamotarot, that we should try as much as possible to not do things that are allowed. And therefore he says that the Nazir is a wonderful thing. In his words, even though you're not a Kohen and you don't have to be worried about impurity, you should be careful. So Chumras, according to this, is a wonderful thing. But the Rambam seems to disagree. And he's not alone. There are Gemaras that say explicitly, and I quote a Gemara in Yerushalmi, Masechet Shabbos 1, subdivision 2, Tani Chizkiah, Kol mishu patur min hadavar ve'osehu nikra hedyot. Whoever does something that he's not obligated in and does it anyway, it's called a hedyot, namely a simpleton or someone not too smart. The Rambam comes along and says explicitly, Shema Yomar Adam, maybe someone will say, since things like jealousy and having lust and honor are not good, then what am I going to do? I'll be very stringent and I'll totally stay away from anything. I won't drink wine, I won't eat meat, I won't get married, I won't live in a nice house, and of course, and only wear junky clothing. Comes along the Rambam and Paskin Zoderech Ra'ahi Va'asor Lelechpa. This is a bad thing and don't walk in this path at all. Not only is it a bad thing, but you're considered a sinner. And then he talks about our Nazir. And he says the Nazir is a bad thing. Unlike the Ramban, he says, with due respect, our sages said, this Nazir, at the end of his Nazirite period, has to bring a Korban Chatat, a sin offering. He needs to actually ask forgiveness from God. Why? Because he went ahead and was stringent on something that he shouldn't have been. Namely, God said you can drink wine, and he went ahead and said, I won't. And therefore, if you're stringent on more than the Nazir, all the more so, because at least the Nazir is written in the Torah. But if you go ahead and you're even more stringent, not a good idea. And therefore, says the Rambam, do what the halacha says, no more and no less. In the words of my great-great-great-grandfather, Rav Yoinatan Eibeshitz, Al tosifu pentigrahu. Don't add to it, because if you do, it will only be bad. So as we can see, there isn't a clear-cut view in Jewish law if chumras are good or bad. And indeed, if I can sum it up, we have a very, very famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that comes along and says that one of the attributes of our great sages was that they did a siyag la Torah. The Torah says not to write 2 letters on Shabbos. They said don't even write 1 letter. In other words, they were more stringent than the Torah. And indeed, says Rabbeinu Yonah in his Perush on Avot, Hasiyag u'davar gadol u'meshubach, lasot siyag v'gedol le'mitzvot, l'bayuchal likasher b'hem. Come along and make stringencies above and beyond the letter of the law is a very good thing, so that you go ahead and stand at the cliff, but you're a little further away from the cliff. And he goes on to say how great it is that indeed the sages do it. But I can't be remiss if I didn't mention something that we all have in our machzers, and some of us say on the eve of the Day of Atonement, namely Yom Kippur. So we're coming before God. We want to ask for atonement. Many of us say the Tefillah Zaka before Kol Nidre, and in that Tefillah Zaka, we say no more and no less that we were Keben Sora or Mora Hayiti. We're like that terrible child written in the Torah. Why? Says the Tefillah Zaka, Et asher tiharta timeti. What you said was pure, I made impure. Vet asher itarta asarti. And what you said is permissible, I made forbidden. And et asher ahavta saneti. What you loved, I went ahead and hated it. Let's take the wine of the Nazir. God said you can eat, you can drink kosher wine. Our sages said to use it for Kiddush and Havdalah, and you went ahead and stayed away from it. Et asher ikalta ichmarti. When you were mekel, when you were lenient, I was stringent. So on the eve of the holiest day of the year, we come along before God and said, hey, chumras are no good. So how do we reconcile this machlokas? I would like to suggest in one way, and that is when you do a chumrah, it can only be when it gives you simcha. When you do a chumrah and all it does, it makes you tense and OCD, stay away from it. But if it adds to your avodat Hashem in the sense that you're happier, then it's wonderful. In the words of my great Rebbe, Rav Yehuda Amital Zecher Tzadik Livracha, quoting from the Ribon Kol Olamim that some Jews say between Shalom Aleichem and Eshet Chayil Friday night, and I quote, Le'orer libi la'avatecha, to awaken my heart to your love, God. Ve'az eshmor pikudecha v'chukecha be'li eitzev, which will be at a time in which I will keep your mitzvot without eitzev. Many people translate eitzev as sadness. Rav Amital translated it as atzabim, nerves, high nerves. If your chumrah is going to lead to high nerves, stay away from it. It will not lead to le'orer libi la'ahavatecha, to awaken my heart to love you, God. At the end of the laws of Sukkah, Lulav, and Shofar, when the Rambam talks about the joy of Sukkot, he says the following words. The joy in which someone is happy when he does a mitzvah and loves God is a very hard thing to come by. But whoever takes away this simcha is worthy to actually take retribution on him. Shene'emar, as it says in the pasuk in Kitavo, all the klalot, all the terrible curses of Parshat Kitavo will come upon you because you did not serve God with joy. In a word, if indeed these chumras bring you joy, you sit in a sukkah according to all shitas and you say, this is so beautiful, then maybe a chumrah is in place. But if all it does, it makes you OCD, it makes you very tense, you're always worried, did I eat the right amount of matzah or not? Did I do this right or not? Then that's not what the Rambam calls hasimcha sheyismach adam ba'asiyat mitzvah, the joy that a person should have when he does a mitzvah. So we do not have a clear-cut answer. Is chumrah good for the Jews or bad for the Jews? We have sources on both sides. But I believe that if you want to take upon yourself a chumrah, there's rule number one, and that is only if it leads you to hasimcha sheyismach adam ba'asiyat mitzvah ube'ahavat hakel. If it leads you to love the mitzvah and love God, then it's wonderful. If not, stay away from it.